there was a bit of interesting learnings in getting this up and working, but now it seems to be working. I'm so glad to have you here, and even if not at least the same, happy for having Maria here from Boozt. Thank you, Maria, once again for helping us with this thing, putting this thing live, and of course Frans, who is my co-author of the book.
Yes.
And so this is all recorded, just so that everybody knows. So there will be a chance to show this to your colleagues. I will also be releasing it as a podcast episode. That's basically it. So anyway, let's get started. So what's new in personalization? That's what we're going to talk about. I hope this is going to be at least that's the idea, a pretty informal conversation around that. It's the 5th of November, and we're going to talk about what's new in personalization. And first of all, in case people stumble in to this live stream without realizing where they are or who is hosting it, I can happily say that I am Rasmus Houlind. I'm the author of the book Hello Firstname, not only the first edition from a few years ago, the main author, I should say, because I have co-authors with me, one of them Frans here joining us. I'm also the Chief Experience Officer at Agilic, which is probably the best marketing automation platform, at least in the Nordics, but that's not what we are talking about here today. My own company is Omnichannel Institute, which is also the publisher of the book Hello Firstname. So yeah, without any further ado, that was me. But we also have a special guest here, Frans. Maybe say a few words.
Yeah, hi there, everyone. That was a good start in tasting our own champagne, right, with the technology.
It was bumpy.
Yeah. I think we can say confidently that technology makes everything easier.
At least, I mean, it's better than putting all people in the same room. That would have taken a bit more of a hassle, I think.
No, 100%. And absolutely great job. Thanks for having us. And thanks for letting me chip in the book with some of the insights I collect from my end. Love being here. My name is Frans Riemersma, co-author of the book, founder of Martech Tribe. We do stack benchmarks. Probably the best. No, I'll just stop here. So I'm also co-author of the Martech Landscape, something I co-publish with Scott Brinker every year on May, and now prepping for a new release of a report called Martech for 2026, using our crystal ball and trying to, surveys actually, and just trying to figure out what's happening next year, especially with AI and personalization, because those two go really well together. Maybe a good idea to update the book. Oh wait, we did already.
Yeah, we actually did. But it's nothing if we don't have, you and I, Frans, we're not representing like real companies, real brands. I mean, there's nothing without a truth witness, right? To help us sort of justify the work that we are putting in here. So I'm extremely happy that you could join, Maria. Maybe you could say a few words to the audience.
Absolutely. And I was so happy, Erasmus, when you called me and said, hey, we need someone from the real world doing this, and we would love to have you joining this digital book launch. And I think the first version of the book was already amazing. And if you are new to personalization or have a team that you're starting to set up and start working dedicated, this is really the go-to book for that person. But now when you have even a second edition, I think it becomes even more relevant now when we are in the AI generation. So thank you for that.
Yeah, big pleasure.
Very short, who am I? I actually counted the years, and next year marks my 20 years anniversary in CRM. So I've been around for a while. And why did I get stuck in CRM? And I think I have had the opportunity to work in big companies. And when you're working with CRM, you love large databases, right? Yes. Large customer databases. So that's the reason why I've stayed. And today I'm working at Boozt, which is a big company, and we have a lot of customers. And the cool thing is that we're working with e-commerce, and that means even more data. So I'm happy.
Yeah, and we're getting to talk a lot more about that a bit further on. So, I mean, welcome, all of us all of the audience. So first of all, that's basically a big thank you, not only to the people joining here, but also to everybody who helped make the book come true. This is just a sort of an overview of the people who did some of the advanced praises for the book. I should say a big thank you to Juan Mendoza, the CEO of Martech Weekly, to Frederick McCarthy from HBO Discovery, and to Brian Andersen, EVP of Group Digital Loyalty at Matas Kicks Group, and many other people. And maybe with a special thank you to Scott Brinker for doing the foreword, and to Rupali Jan, CPO of Optimizely, for doing the second forward. And of course, to Agilic, who's sponsoring a lot of my time doing this. Yeah, so thank you very much. So the agenda that we're going to take you guys through is, first of all, why would we take the trouble of making a new edition of Hello Firstname? Second, we're going to talk about how AI affects personalization. We're going to talk about the CX layers, insights, and content. Do you have those ready actually for personalization? We're going to talk maybe a bit more short, but there's definitely a lot about that in the book, about how generative AI affects how we organize, or affects how we should organize maybe. Then, Maria, you'll be talking to us about Boozt's approach to personalization, which I'm really looking forward to. And then we'll end off on a more practical note, actually, with some calls to actions and some tools that the audience can use for in the future to upskill themselves, upskill their colleagues, just simply perform better personalization. So that's the idea. Okay. Yeah. So why do a new version of Hello Firstname? I'll start having a go of that. And believe me, it's a painful process to do a book. So if there wasn't any reason, we simply wouldn't have done it. So just doing the first version alone was tough enough, and that was born out of frustration with too many misunderstandings, people misunderstanding each other about personalization, because there are so many different angles that you can come to personalization from. That was the idea of it to begin with, to put people sort of on the same page. And then the first edition came out around the same time as OpenAI launched ChatGPT 4. So suddenly that started popping up, and we're releasing the book, and I was like, oh, something's happening here. Should I have said more about, should we have written more about generative AI in the book? Because in the following years, I mean, there wasn't really anything out there in terms of cases using Gen AI for personalization. Just had this idea that this is going to be quite big quite soon, but it wasn't. But then, generative AI suddenly became like in heavy use for instance, SEO content. DALL-E became, with image generation, a part of ChatGPT. I mean, suddenly a lot of Martech vendors started embedding AI across all kinds of Martech, and Agilic was no exception to this. And I think now it's pretty clear that generative AI is just simply everywhere, no matter where you look, and it should be. So there were some questions actually that really needed answering. That was the feeling, and it was too early to answer them. I think just when ChatGPT came out, because no one had the answers. So and it was questions like, how does generative AI affect sort of the ground rules of personalization? Has sort of the premise of it changed? And how should it be incorporated into the practice of personalization? Is it a prerequisite, even personalization? Do we need to have like full control of Gen AI to start doing personalization? How does it affect our tech landscape, which is a topic that Frans and Scott have been spending and are spending quite a lot of time on? I think actually there's an event here in December, right, where we can get even more insights on that, Frans, if I'm not mistaken. How does it affect the skills we need in our organizations to do not only personalized marketing, but marketing in general? And which new processes does it make us consider? So basically was the whole purpose of season 2 of the Hello Firstname podcast, all about finding the answers to those questions. And I believe, some of the answers we still don't have, and some of the answers will change over the coming time, because we simply don't have all the answers yet. So if you want to follow the podcast, you can. That's also where you can. This is from the Spotify link. It's also on Apple Podcasts and many other services. But this event will actually pop up there. I'll also put it in a newsletter, the recording of this event. But the idea was that these answers, of course, would lead to this new edition of Hello Firstname, which it did. And here I am holding the book, and it's real. There's nothing like print media about digital media somehow. All right. So what is new in personalization? I kind of promised to go over that. And I'll start out by saying what really hasn't changed. Because talking about the ground rules of personalization, what we found out, me, Frans, Matthias Andersen, and Ariel Horsberg, who are also helping us doing the localized versions of the first edition. And also they were hosting together with me the different expert panels that we did around the Nordics in this case. So in Oslo and in Stockholm, we did several, and in Copenhagen, we did several of these expert panels to actually find out what are sort of at the heart of personalization. If you really boil it hard, you boil it down, what is actually there at the core. And it basically, the idea is that you have your customer insights and you couple that up with your content. So matching your customer insights with your content at an efficient rate, really that's what personalization is down to. And AI hasn't changed that. That's what it's still about. So before you think about anything about bidding strategies and channels and campaigns, marketing automation, think about what is it that you want to say to whom, basically. So it can even be put as simple as that. And I think we all know if you go to a dinner party and you say that you meet, so if you imagine doing that and you go and you meet someone who has, all the insights, knows everything about you, seems to remember everything you ever said, but really doesn't know how to communicate and say things properly, that's going to be super weird. You don't want to spend too much time with that person or that brand. And the opposite is also true. The people who just, keep talking, the crocodile people, very big mouths, very small ears, you don't want to be that person or that brand either. So really there's a balance in this, and this is where you need to tie the knot. And for the sake of efficiency and not overspending and overinvesting money in this, I mean, we cannot afford hiring a personal assistant for every single customer out there. So this is where we need to tie the bow a bit tighter, and that's where the efficiency comes in, right? And that's still what it's about. But lo and behold, while AI has changed not so much the way that we're necessarily building segments and moments of truth and doing our recommendations and content feeds, I mean, that has been available, that has been doable with classic AI. Some of it has become even easier now. But really, it's the way that you are producing the creative messaging that has changed the most, because suddenly generative AI can actually help that come together. So one of the major points from actually both the first book but also this edition is that the bow tie model here is actually a way of allowing you to look at different types of personalization. I mentioned this earlier. You can come at it from many different angles. So either you are matching your segments with the right corresponding messages in your outbound communications, which will allow your campaigns to become more personalized, will become better, or you're working with getting a lot of the right messages to the right people at the right time, and that would be a case of marketing automation where you're focusing slightly different on the bow type. Or if you are working with on-site or in-app personalization or on your inbound platforms, it's very much about getting actually the right shelves of products or articles or whatever content feeds you have with the right headlines in front of the right people at the right time. That's a good place to start with personalization. So I think the next question is sort of, okay, so which type of personalization is then affected the most by generative AI? And I think actually on-site personalization is probably what has been affected the least by Gen AI. I think this is mainly because the content quite often already exists there on the website. I'm not saying that website generation and so on hasn't been changed by Gen AI, but the personalization aspects to it is at least where things are right now. It's very much a matter of deciding whether to show or hide or pop up or whatever existing content that you already have somewhere. It's not a huge production issue. And then, of course, also the product recommendations, which are by and large still the same. Of course, Gen AI has changed a lot on how you can do CRO and stuff, but I would regard that as something that actually becomes for personalization, that comes before personalization. Marketing automation, obviously, that has been changed to some degree, again, because the messages, the creative messages that you are serving to people can now be created in many more variants, much more easily than it could before. But since these flows are running more or less indefinitely, this is not where the big changes come in. It's actually more with campaigns. I'm not talking only about email campaigns there, but even TV commercials. So I was speaking at a Martech World Forum in London like a month back or so, and there was a huge presentation by the monks about how this put up like this huge agentic network that could actually generate a TV commercial with extremely high def video and imagery and sound and so on, with like a swarm network of agents pulling together a lot of the core stories, the core canonical assets, and sort of actually putting those through Gen AI into what eventually came TV commercials and loads of collateral. spinning off of that. So this is definitely something that it has changed the nature of personalization and will continue to do so. But actually, very few organizations are ready for personalization. So I've been touring the world with the Bowtie of Personalization, talking about that. And what I realized is that a lot of companies understand the Bowtie, and a lot of marketers out there find it extremely easy to comprehend, and they are basically just ready to do personalization. At least that's what the management thinks. But when it comes down to play, maybe not everybody is ready for personalization. I'll hand that over to you, Frans.
Yeah, thanks. The update is amazing, and it's never done, because if you look at what is changing in AI, it's really insane. Just what a couple of weeks ago OpenAI released. Sometimes I wonder if the roadmap of OpenAI is faster than any RFP. So we have to speed up the. But looking at this, we really focused in this book on what are the universal things, like, almost like gravity. What doesn't change, and what are the levers to pull? And taking a step back, what we really looked at is, okay, there is a lot of data and a lot of AI has been used there, but how does Gen AI now change the content game? Because, you mentioned DALL-E, Midjourney, all those tools. The whole visualization piece is now opened up almost. And we haven't seen it a lot yet because it's pretty complex. The monks example you shared with me and you shared now is amazing. I'm sure there are many more. And that is taking really content to the next level. Because all too often we create campaigns where you go like, okay, we have a campaign, we have our data and segments and audience all in place. We have to wait for a Marcom to produce the content. Yeah. And that will take 2 weeks. So what about real time? So that's a real pain, and there's not much you can do. So we'll unpack that a little bit in the coming slides. So on the one hand, you have data, zeros and ones, and at best, the content you can create with that data is maybe an email, right? You can't generate any visuals or videos with it. That is something you do in a content layer, and that's pretty hard. You mentioned the word canonical assets, and we'll come back to that one.
Yeah.
But basically, if your personalization stack, if you want, really is built on data and content, then this is how it looks like. And now try to personalize. Yes, this is how hyper personalization is working. It's going to be a bloodshed, I think. This is not what you want. This is what you called in some of the keynotes you did, the content crisis, right?
Yeah, I think I called it dropping the content bomb on personalization.
That one. Yeah.
I think even you came up with that, Frans. So
it's the content bomb and the content crisis, and it's not like it's new. It's been there for a long time, and everybody basically used to it and not even questioning it anymore. But with Gen AI, we can start questioning it again. And now we can combine both the content layer and the data layer, because the data layer stuff we can use as a prompt to generate visuals. Again, we don't see this a lot, but it really can help produce real-time content at scale, hyper-personalized.
Let's take it one step back, though. Let's have a look at the data layer first, Frans, because that's where it started. Also, some of the predictions that you and Scott did.
Yes, 100%. So, you and I were riffing over this at a London bar with a good steak, I believe. What we were looking at is basically we were talking, okay, so if you look at the current stacks, then the data layer is in place. And man, is that difficult. We're talking about CDPs, cloud data warehouses.
Not trying to belittle that in any way.
No way, shape, or form. It's super complex, but we're getting there. And you see more and more engagement tools plugging directly into the data lakes, the data warehouses. And that is amazing. That's where you have your data collection. And then we transform it into master data, make sure we have the core in place. And then we start to model it to see, okay, who is the client actually? What are they doing? How do they behave? And then we go to data activation, feed it back, reverse ETL into systems, and then it takes from there. So this is what we elaborated on with Brinker, but also yourself. Great. If this is highly simplified, so apologies to all the data layer experts out there, highly simplified in 4 steps, roughly taken, these are the steps in the data layer. And then you and I start thinking, okay, what if we replace just the word data with content? and do the same for the data layer, for the content layer, sorry. So you have content collection. Well, actually, we hardly do that. What would that comprise if you copy and paste the data collection principles? That would comprise like, okay, we send out a message, a visual, a piece of content, and we feed it back into the system and we get smarter. We hardly do that. We just spit it out and we're happy it's out. And there are no typos in there. So that is how we did it so far. And you see that content collection so far is basically a brand book, assets, put it in the right place, a folder, a DAM, a PIM, MDM, what have you. And then we start to create master content. And that is the piece where you see the canonical assets coming in, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah, that one. And then you have your content modeling, trying to understand. So this is where you see sometimes lightweight A/B testing, variations, and that kind of stuff. And then we activate it. These are actually, you see those red crosses over there, and those should hurt because we hardly have any exchange between those. Whereas in data, you have data streams and APIs. You can't API an asset from one place to another. That doesn't work. So it's a highly fragmented and manual process. And this is now, I think, and we think with Gen AI, that can be and will be fixed. Content will flow just like it's flowing within the data layer. And that is cool because you need both fixed to do the personalization, right?
Yeah, that's actually where the bow tie comes in.
Yeah.
We took it one step further, though, I would say.
Unpacking it, just using the similar blocks, you see a personalization layer. And you need both legs to stand on. And you saw the bloodshed in the earlier slide where content is highly underdeveloped, not because companies don't want to, they just didn't have the means like a generative AI solution. So that's what you see happening now. So we can optimize experiences, we can make decisions, and then we can deliver it and more in real time. And the monks example was a nice above the line example. But below the line, I think you in your company also have some nice examples. I see them more and more popping up in the market. Yeah. And that is a truly liberating marketers from technology and data and content and just saying, okay, what does my client look like? What do they want? What do they need to hear right now? Instead of, the data integration isn't there. And actually the assets aren't ready from the agency. And there you go. So I think we're getting in a better spot here.
Yeah. So, and I think looking at this, and I mean, we created this model maybe, I don't know, half a year ago or so, a bit more. And actually just having presented it to a lot of marketers, I've found that it seems to be very well received because we're finally in a place where it makes sense to treat content as content and data as data. And it also makes sense that Gen AI would affect static content before affecting personalization as well, because it's just further upstream in the content layer.
May I add one more thing before we go into examples that are super interesting? Sometimes people say, content is just like data, but we make a distinction here. So data is mostly inwardly looking at, okay, what audiences, what are they doing, where are they clicking? We haven't spoken back to the customer yet. You need content for that. And yes, you can generate out of your data layer email sequences and you can craft some emails. Yeah, that's a very lightweight content layer. But truly a developed content layer is much more. It's visuals, it's videos, real time, connected, on brand, legally compliant, all that stuff.
Creative, engaging, fun.
Yeah. It's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think, no content, no marketing. And if I am going to listen to anyone, it also has to be engaging and nice and in the right tone of voice and supporting actually my emotions, basically. Because in fact, we are still human. And even though agents might take this up for us at a later time, we will probably put it on them to take care of our emotions as well. So I'm ready to make the bet that this isn't going away anytime soon. So yes, just some examples of how things could look like in a marketing automation tool. So when it actually comes into the personalization layer, as you see here, for the decisioning and the content that you're creating here for instance, outbound deliveries, could look a bit like that, where you're actually wrapping all these canonical content into the Gen AI that is maybe doing, in this case, your email text. So your company tone of voice, or more like sub tone of voices, depending on what errand you are in, which kind of persona, your key personas, and maybe also your value proposition, all those things. Imagine that the LLM that you're using within your Gen AI tool actually knows these things and can do maybe also actions based on this. That will allow for you to, for instance, like more easily create a personalized email variants. This is an example from FC Copenhagen, where they're just actually inviting people to the same match, but they're doing it in a different way to different audiences. Something that they could also do before, but now it's so much easier to hand over the task to a junior while still keeping it within like the brand guardrails and the company brand guidelines, and not using any words that you're not allowed to use for a football team. And they're not customers, they're fans. So you really need to make sure that you don't say stuff accidentally that reminds them about the competitor or whatever. You'll definitely have that fired up. I was quite involved with FC Copenhagen in this process. And to begin with, we thought, okay, we'll just do like 100 variants, like micro segments, because now we can have Gen AI help us do it. But really, the emails, and this is coming back to what haven't changed, the emails here where you're selling a match, they are 95% about the match that you're selling and only 5% about the customer. So while we could have like 10,000s, 100,000s completely individualized versions of it, it wouldn't be better necessarily, because it would be like a comma. So you would have a hard time actually telling some of these quite similar emails apart, really. So you still don't need an endless amount of variants, especially not if you are doing quality assurance of every single one of them. I mean, there's a finite number to how many ways you want to experience a communication like this, at least. Obviously, there are other examples. And also coming back to the point about not necessarily using a Gen AI to create hyper relevant or hyper personalized content. It can also just be a matter of being able to delegate mass production of campaigns. So actually fairly generic content, but this is an example of the Danish and Swedish beauty retailer Matas Kicks Group, and how they've built like a campaign machine where they can actually reduce the amount of time it takes to produce an on-brand and engaging campaign by I don't know how many times, but it's like really lean, mean, efficient campaign machine as it is now. And it still works just as beautifully. So that's also a way of using Gen AI, maybe not so much for personalization, but if you can free time from the manual campaigns, then you can use that time instead on all the personalized stuff. So that's kind of the idea. Then in the second part of the book, we did some heavy updating, because we're looking at this maturity for personalization, inspired by a lot of the work that Frans did earlier with Hack, Pack, and Stack, like 3 different maturity levels for how well you're on your way towards the personalized CX. And what really lies behind this, so the back end of the pyramid here, it's about how you manage technology, how you deal with people and skills, and how you manage your governance and processes. And it turns out that AI didn't completely change the game here, but it kind of sneaked its way into these different disciplines. So obviously technology using ad hoc AI assistants, or actually deploying a brand LLM, so everybody's custom GPT actually knows the same tone of voice across the company. So there's some governance to it, maybe coming to a place where you're maybe deploying a simple agents in your technology stack. There's a crossover from that into people and skills, because I mean, what's technology and what is people, that can become a bit blurry when we're talking assistants and agents. But sporadic use, I think that's where many organizations are today, using it more systematically, maybe with the brand LLM in place from an organizational point of view. Maybe some of you are already having AI agents, simple AI agents, as part of your team members. So there's been some experimentation with that, at least. And from a governance point of view, making sure, I mean, there's so many new questions arise with this. So if we are making the brand LLM, if we are doing AI and we're incorporating AI into the whole process of doing static and personalized content alike, who gets to update the brand LLM, and with which intervals do we do it, and how do we decide on getting the right canonical assets in there so that everybody is working from sort of the same soul and ground idea of the company, and everything stays more or less within the company guidelines and within the guardrails. And whatever you need to do when you want to create a campaign is just to add that little extra salt that is the gist of the new campaign. And then basically, boom, 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 all the assets will not produce itself, but almost. That's sort of the idea with it. But yeah, so to conclude, so midway conclusion here before hearing it from Maria, heart of personalization is still the same, matching insights with content efficiently. While Gen AI is eventually changing also the personalized content, it has definitely changed the foundations for content altogether, but also going much further back into the content layer and the content pipeline. And obviously, your organization needs to adapt. Yeah, I think that was enough for me and us here to begin with. I'll stop sharing and I'll leave it over to you, Maria, to say a few words about how you're working with this at Boozt.
Thank you very much. We'll start to see if I can share my screen. Classic. And there you see my screen, right?
Totally.
Amazing. Amazing. So really interesting to listen to you now, the both of you walking through the highlights of the book and the personalization in relation both to data and content. And I can just verify that generative AI and AI is a hot topic in our organization, and it goes across all teams, not only an IT platform thing, but how can we work with Gen AI to become more innovative, more efficient, and more smart, etc. And I think what I find a little bit of a difficult is to kind of balance that daily work that you just need to do. You have the big operation that just needs to deliver every day. And then all these AI things are happening and you need to be there trying out, innovate, and because otherwise you will fall behind. And that's a real struggle. But anyway, I'm here now to not only talk about the struggle, but actually talk about how we are working with personalization at Boozt. So in the next 15 minutes or so, I will briefly not introduce myself because that I've already done, but definitely give a quick intro to what Boozt is, and then do a deep dive into how we are working with personalization in emails. So I will show you how it works, why it works, and the framework we are working with. Yes, okay. So over to Boozt. What is Boozt? I think if you live in Sweden or in Denmark, Boozt is a quite well-known brand. We are an online Nordic department store, and unlike a marketplace, we are actually owning the full custom experience, which means that we own the brand curation, we put the prices, we make sure that the things are delivered fast out to the customers. We take care of returns, everything more or less. And as of today, we are actually the biggest e-commerce player in Sweden, but we are operating across 14 European markets. So if you are living in Germany, you can try us out. We have some really nice numbers. We actually launched our quarter Q3 report yesterday, and we are still growing with profitability, even though it's a bit tougher today than it was around Corona times, I would say. We are about 1,000 people in Sweden, Denmark, Poland, and Lithuania. And I think the talk of the town right now is that Boozt is closing down the headquarters in Sweden, and we are moving to Copenhagen in Denmark at the beginning of next year, which is a huge thing for us. And I think we are definitely ready for being located in a capital city.
You're so welcome in Copenhagen.
Yes, I know that, and I will definitely hook up with you to have a coffee and meet my CRM peers in Copenhagen. So very happy for that. Okay, our vision and strategy is very clear, and it's the same that has been it has been for the last couple of years. We are focusing on delivering the leading Nordic department store across not only fashion, where we are born from, so to say, but also kids, sport, home, and beauty. So quite a big thing. But we're not doing this only to call ourselves the leading Nordic department store. We are actually doing this because it's a big business potential behind that vision. And here is an example that shows how a revenue grows from when a customer moves from only shopping in one single category into actually shopping from all our 7 departments.
That's a pretty big lift in CLV.
Yeah, and I think what is interesting here is that when a customer starts exploring the other nice things that we have in the shop, they don't just add more to the mix, but they are actually increasing the basket within that single category that they were buying from originally. So if a customer shops for 1,000 and then starts to exploring all departments, they will buy for 20,000 SEK. And they will also, on top of that, increase their purchases within that home-based category, so to say. So it's a big thing. We see that when customers start exploring what we can offer, then they will spend more and they will come back. But let's leave that boring stuff behind and jump into Boozt personalization. And I think, at least me, personalization is like the heart of CRM. And this is where I have the most fun, because I believe it's where the numbers really meet the people. And when you get that right, then you get not only just happy customers, but also the revenue is coming in that way. So, of course, CRM and personalization covers a lot, and I will not be able to walk you through everything we do at Boozt, but I will open one door and show you how we are working with email personalization today. So let's stick to that little topic for now. Okay, so we know personalization is a hot topic out there. Everyone is talking about it. I'm actually happy to see that you don't need to convince people that you should work with personalization any longer.
Over a few years,
So it's an open door. The minute you say personalization, everyone is like, yeah, we should do that. Yeah. Amazing.
Wasn't always like that.
No, it wasn't. So at Boozt, we don't do it for the sake of it. We do it because we have seen it in the numbers that it actually works. And I think we can all agree on the building blocks here, that we need the customer data. We are collecting the preferences, the behavior, the intent, the timing, everything around that. And then we have a platform that actually can help us send it out. And when you are like us, we are operating in 40 markets. We have different languages. We have different categories. We have 5 million customers. It's a lot of things that needs to be coordinated. So, but we do it. And I was so happy to see when I followed up one of the key KPIs that we are tracking, and that is the email. So we have worked very dedicated this year in scaling the personalization in the emails. And it has shown a 200% increase. Crazy, I know, and I could put any number there probably. But bottom line, it works, and it gives us a lot of great revenue. So when doing personalization right, it's not just good marketing, it's good business. So in the CRM team, we have kind of to get the things in order, defined 3 different jobs that we are focusing on. And these are the 3 things that we know if we focus on them and plan initiatives around them, then that will help us grow the customer base and keep people coming back. So the first job is very much focused on the one-to-one personalization. So here we have the deep, daily, data-driven, and very tailored communications. Typically, it's a triggered email or something where we pick data from your behavior. The second job is scaling segmented campaigns. So this is more of a weekly thing that we do, where we need to balance the scale. So we go a little bit broader, but still keeping the personal touch in the communication. And then lastly, the big job is, of course, to let everyone know that we are a department store today. We are not only a fashion destination, but you can actually shop your sports equipment, to your kids, home, everything.
The big
So
cross.
yes. So here we need to tell the Boozt story, right? And now I know, Rasmus, that you hijacked my slide. We have insert the bow tie model, of course, but I think this ties nicely together with what you just went through with us. So we have then, of course, the messaging and the marketing automation, and then we have the broader campaign perspective. So really showing how it is done differently. Okay, but you know, or at least if you live in Sweden and Denmark, you know that we are a frequent email sender. And last year alone, we sent the whooping number 1.2 billion emails, and I'm sure we will hit that number this year again.
A few weeks back.
We actually started Black Friday today, the campaign. It's just that starts earlier and earlier every day. Yeah. But when you're operating at that scale, you need to have a clear framework, right? Because everything becomes very messy if you don't have your things in order. So we need to be clear on what is it that we are sending, how are we sending it, and why are we sending it. So that's why we built out this framework to kind of coordinate the emails. And we have some ground rules for the emails. For example, we are only sending one email per day per subscriber. So even if you qualify for triggered campaigning, we will always just send one. We will, of course, also filter out the inactive and unengaged customers. So we make sure that we protect our sender reputation and don't get on partial suspension from our... Exactly. And then last rule, we make sure that the most valuable email is being sent out. So to do this, we have defined our emails into 5 different types of emails. So here to the left, you can see we are defining them out from level of personalization, you can say. So going from broad to the true one-to-one communication. And then we map that into the frequency you usually send them to. So it could be a triggered email or a weekly or a daily. And this is the foundation. But then, as I said before, we are tracking everything that we are sending. So we know, of course, what email type is performing good or bad. And then we have added the prioritization to that. So typically, a triggered email or a journey email is the most valuable email, both for us and for the customer. So that will always be the first one going out. And then you can potentially qualify for 4 emails. We will never send you 4 emails. But the worst experience would be the generic newsletter going out. But then I want to add actually that even that email is like 56th version because we have the market dimension, we have the customer and prospects, we have the gender. So I would say it's ish personalized as well. Okay, so we got the structure in place. We have the framework that makes sure that every email has a purpose and a precision. But then the big question comes, what about the content? How do we create this content monster or chaos, whatever you want to call it? So like Rasmus wrote in the book, the content is rarely in place. Or in the same good shape as the data is. Yeah. So what do we actually fill the emails with to make them personal, inspiring, and appealing, you could say. And that's where AI comes in. And now I just want to say that we are not like doing everything in AI, but I have a few examples that ties quite nicely into this that helps you understand how we are trying out AI in the way we can. There are 2 examples. The first one is not at all connected to emails, but it's a nice example. And the other one is on par with email marketing. So the first one is typically a product description. I think we have around 15 million items in the shop. So it makes sense. You don't do that manually. You try to find someone or an AI to kind of produce those product descriptions. because we know it helps a lot for the customers if there are more information behind these products. And again, we have it connected to the content layer. So this would typically be linked to the master content bucket for the content layer.
Yeah, so your products need to look the same no matter where you show them.
Yeah, the product descriptions needs to be the same format, the Boozt, tone of voice, etc. But then we have the second example, and this is
I love this one.
What we do inside the CRM ecosystem, you could say. So here we are using an AI-powered product bundles. And this we are using both in the emails, but also on site. So some of our products will, when you go to the PDP, you will find style with-ish. Then you click there, and then this nice collage will show things that works well with the product that you had interacted with. But I think the cool thing is here really that we are pulling that product that you have engaged with. So in these two examples, we have a classic abandoned browse email. And then the other one is like bought this, and then we send an after purchase email. So we kind of help the customer to find other things. And now this is still around fashion. No, we actually have a perfume there. So we try to incorporate the other departments as well in this collage.
So from fashion to beauty, yeah.
Yes. So together, these examples show how we feed the content layer in personalization and connecting inspiration, efficiency, and scale, of course, then, because it's a lot of collages.
This is a beautiful way of connecting insights with content, I think.
Yeah, and personalized it 100%. Yeah. It's products that you like or are interested in, or you're interested in showing. See when the price goes down, etc. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. Yeah. Okay, and again, of course, we have the content layer here. So connecting and insights and messages. So to wrap this up, I want to show how we balance the reach and the relevancy, but also the value. And I think here I plotted out the three different jobs that I just described for you. And typically you always say that, yes, personalization one-to-one, that's the highest relevancy, and it's very niched, but very important. And then you have segmentation happening a little bit broader, a little less relevant, but still high value. And then you say, okay, if you go very, very broad, you will lose that value. But what we really see is that when we get that right, we get the long-term value for our customer base. When we are building the Nordic department store, that is the way how we connect the reach, the relevance, and the value.
Yeah, so the relevance might lead to better like conversion rates, but really the long-term value comes from the big cross-sell that you're doing here.
Definitely.
Yeah, super interesting.
That would be where you grow the loyalty.
It's very interesting, yeah. I love examples, yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful example, Maria. We actually found, Frans and I, we've been experiencing that the examples are always what win. The examples always win. So whenever we're doing a talk somewhere in the world and it's about theoretical stuff and models from the book and so on, the case studies always get a better score when you are doing the
that's what you want to take home with you when you spend time listening to the experts that you are. But I really like the models that you have, and while I was preparing the slides, I did that first, and then I had to talk with you, and then we just understood that we are marrying two things very well. So theory and reality is interconnected very well here.
Thank you for those words.
If I may chip in one small thing, what I really like is you call it boring stuff. I find it exciting stuff, the busy rates. How do you drive value? You're not talking about conversions, click-through rates, you're talking about revenue. And I think that is really where the next step will be, because generative AI is freeing up time. So now we don't have to be immersed in data and technology. Now we can care about, who was it again? The customer? Maybe that's great.
Circling back to the idea of the examples always winning. So having looked at I think we generally get quite nice reviews. So this is not me whining, but still we got the idea that the examples seem to be like really strong in communicating value and that people can relate to. And there's also a trend, which I know that Frans and Scott are using a lot, which is atomization. So Martech is becoming more and more atomized. So actually, we had the idea then of maybe merging these two. So let's do atomized examples. And this is where the idea of the personalization cards actually came in, because while models clarify, we actually find that the real examples are what inspires people the most. So with the book having been like a bottom-up process where we spoke to so many people and we got that input, we put that into this refined model, then this is actually taking it down again into the very practical levels while still keeping the categorization from the top. So we actually took the effort of doing loads of examples, loads of atomized examples to actually help get the imagination going. And it's actually something that we are, and you can buy these cards even. So if you want to do like a workshop and you want to sit with the physical cards, you can even buy the cards. I'll send you a deck. You can even get a signed book copy with it if you like. And I've seen very few things as engaging as these cards are in real life scenarios. So they are, it's a really neat box. So this is like TV shop. So if you have no ideas for which segments you should be talking to, then at least there are 50 examples here. Things are falling to the floor here. Yeah, and there are all the messages, there are all the moments of truth, and they're all divided actually in 4 different verticals. So that's the idea actually. So
I can't wait to use them with my team.
I said
planning the 2026 roadmap. Amazing.
We'll get back to that actually. So this is just an example because it's very nice with the physical cards if you are able to meet up physically. But really, some of you will be sitting in organizations where you are sitting in different parts of the world, different time zones, just different offices. You can actually use there are some completely free Moreau templates. If you follow the link here, bit.ly/perso-cards, you can find the Moreau templates. They're completely free to use, with all the cards here that you can customize, and you can choose the deck that matches your industry first. So whether it's commerce, it's subscription, it's charity, NGO, it's within banking, you can start with one of those. You can sort of build your way from there. That's the idea, with completely free for everybody to use. There's no permission gathering or anything. It's just completely free. We're just putting it out. There's also some instructions in the actual boards here. Here you see actually someone who is doing an abandoned cart strategy, and where high value customers don't get the free shipping offers. That's for the price sensitive customers. And of course, the abandoned cart reminder comes with different types of products, whatever you left in the basket, but maybe also some alternatives to that. So that's one way of working with this. You can also, you can use it from different angles as well. You can also start by saying, let's take a product category page and see how we want to personalize, having that sort of as your fixed point. So that's the idea, and it's something that I hope and I invite everybody to start using. So, but then we had this discussion, Maria, you and I was immediately fired up around the huge potential that you're seeing. This is came up with the idea. This is the big cross sell. We saw the Big Short, the movie from long ago. This is the big cross sell, and if you succeed with this, you're looking to 7x the value of the company. My mind is completely blown by this. So I took the idea of, okay, so how would this actually look how does the big cross sell look for Boozt? So I started actually laying the cards here. And as you can see, this is obviously the commerce deck that I used to start with. And there are all kinds of segments in here, and I picked some of them. So I went from like a gross list of cards into sort of the net list of the ones that I found were relevant for the big cross sell, where we are, of course, the core segment here is the single category customers in different forms, and with there are some behavioral segments here as well that we're looking into, and then all the messages that we could choose from. But then in the cross-sell scenario, you'd probably look into at least the gift-giving scenarios like Black Friday, Christmas, and so on. But also the stories, the big stories about who is Boozt and how is this a life hack for how you can actually make your life easier. You can not only shop for gifts, but really make sure that you can have people explore the other categories. The moments of truth, while the big cross-sell is not so much a marketing automation game, but more of a campaign game, as you also said. There's still some moments of truth that are super interesting. Abandoned cart, obviously permission capture, first purchase, and so on. But especially when you see people then searching a new category or putting a search term in for a new category, that's really when you should act, and you should make sure to follow up with all the different sets of recommendations that you could put in there. What are the most relevant products within this category that people are browsing? What are the top brands in category X? What are the typical gifts from category X and so on that you want to promote to people in a big cross-sell? And then really what is left, obviously there's a channel piece as well, but most brands are omni-channel. So it's really a matter of finding, for instance, the single category customers. Some of them you know a lot about, some have kids, some don't. And that could have a great influence to what is the next best category, for instance, which could be dynamically calculated. You'll be telling the high level story about what is Boozt and what is the life hack with this, not only for these customers and campaigns, but also like with new permissions and with the welcome program and so on, talking about the different assortments that you have, making sure everybody realizes that this is not a fashion store, it's a department store really. Doing maybe gamified profile surveys for the customers you don't know so much about, and making sure that you're telling this story obviously in outbound owned media and on your website on the different pages, but also in the way that you are. Yeah, and this the idea of maybe putting in like the cheap products from the other categories as a small thing that could put people above the threshold for free shipping, maybe even. And again, all these stories, make sure that you tell them not only on owned media, but also in paid media. So that was kind of the idea with the big cross-sell and how you can actually use the cards if you like. So this is completely free for everybody to use, and I hope that people will find this funny and interesting. And obviously, there's also the option of the physical cards. Yeah. So so that was actually kind of it. We're a bit over time, but we were also we had a few technical hiccups. One last thing, if you like the idea with the cards and if you like the idea with the book, but you need maybe even more guidance, we actually took the trouble of making a course. If you go to omnichannelinstitute.com, which is my personal website, you can find the course there, obviously. But there's also the bit.ly/perso-course, where you can find the course. Maybe you don't need it, but maybe your team members do, or you get new team members. And if you're already using the Bowtie and all the models from Hello Firstname, if you're already using them in your team, maybe this could be like a fast onboarding tool for all new employees. So yeah, I think that was kind of it, really. Thank you, Maria, for telling your story. Thank you, Frans, for showing up as always. So download a free abstract of the book if you like, following the link here. Check out the cards, play around with the canvas, sign someone up for the course that you believe should maybe get even more better control of the core foundations of personalization. Thank you so much, everybody. And again, this is a recorded session. I'll put link to all this into the show notes. So if you're listening to this while on the go, maybe go back, check out the show notes, and you can actually find all the links in there as well. Thank you very much.